Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
We had a lovely, productive, and upbeat conversation with Charlene Gisele, a former attorney turned health coach. After becoming overwhelmed with the fast-paced, big city corporate lawyer life in London, Charlene made an internal pivot to slow down, be present, and help other harried, high-performing, productivity-driven professionals try to do the same. Charlene shares her journey to becoming a health coach and walks us through what her practice looks like today, who she works with, how, and why. This boots-on-the-ground health coaching content is our absolute favorite stuff to talk about. We'd love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. By the way, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of Health Coach Radio can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. You'll take a lot away from this episode, particularly if you're relatively new to health coaching and are curious how others have made the leap from their salaried, soul-crushing careers. Don't forget that one of the non-negotiable ingredients in building your health coaching practice is being a truly masterful coach. And this is exactly what I teach our students in the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course. Not only will you learn and practice advanced coaching skills, but this course also satisfies the educational requirements to enable you to sit for the NBC HWC credentialing exam so you can become a board-certified health and wellness coach. Stay tuned to the end of the show where Laura will explain a little bit more about the course. In the meantime, head to primalhealthcoach.com/level2 to get more information. Crush your imposter syndrome by being really good at what you do. It really can be that easy. And speaking of easy, let's get into this inspiring and breezy conversation with our guest, Charlene Gisele.
Oh my gosh, Charlene, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Oh, I'm excited to have you on. You and I spoke a couple months ago about the possibility of having you on because you had referred some friends to our program.
Yes.
And I just thought, what a phenomenal opportunity to, we love talking to other health coaches that are out here doing it and making a living to be able to inspire other people to follow this path. So if you wouldn't mind, would you start a little bit with just telling us a little bit about you, your story, and how you got here?
Yes, we'd love to, Laura. So my journey into health is not really straightforward in the sense that I was a former lawyer, actually an attorney for quite a few years. I worked as a litigator in an American law firm, and it was always my dream to be a lawyer. And I think growing up as a little girl, the reason why I wanted to be a lawyer was because I wanted to be of service. I really wanted to be helping people, and that was what I saw as the best way to serve. Being a lawyer, you're serving justice, you're going to help. And my dad was a very successful businessman, so I was following the path of, wanting to be that strong businesswoman. But unfortunately, or fortunately, what I saw was my health and the health of other people around me was really deteriorating. My dad, who was my role model as a very successful insurance broker, had a heart attack and a stroke. And I was, daddy's little girl. He was the reason I wanted to be a successful businesswoman. And it was a complete shock to me that he would get sick. Because frankly, I took health for granted. It was not something I would wake up and let's think about health. It was just, it's always going to be around. Let's just burn out the energy. Let's go on 3 hours sleeps every day. Eating well, who needs to do that? So I think health was something I took for granted until I saw my dad have the heart attack and the stroke. And that made me realize, it's so fragile. It's really so fragile, and it's something to be treasured, and it's something to invest in. And why am I going to spend the rest of my life accumulating wealth to then spend all that wealth to fix the health that I've damaged while accumulating health? It doesn't really make sense. So I looked at the options, and I knew that I wanted to still be of service and to still be people orientated, and to think about how I could use my wit and my passion for talking in a way that would be more health centric. I decided to go on a journey, on a bit of a spiritual quest, but also on a health journey, because I was facing my own burnout. I was really, really tired from working the corporate hours. And that's how the sort of health adventure began.
That's pretty cool. That's interesting to me because sometimes we get folks in our school who worry because they themselves didn't have a big health wake-up call. You did because you were burnt out, but it sounds to me like your bigger motivator to do this was seeing your dad and
Yes.
this role model in your life. So you that was your big motivator to get into the health world. And you know, you mentioned that as a kid you always wanted to be of service. You always kind of were this heart-centered person. So how did you see yourself helping? How did you make the transition into health coaching, I guess?
That's a really good question. If I'm being perfectly honest, when I first left my whole corporate world, I didn't know that it would be coaching per se, although I had a hint because I was a big fan of Tony Robbins. Tony, and I went to my first UPW on the last year before I left my corporate life. And I was just seeing him on stage thinking, that's it, I want to be a coach. I don't know what kind of coach, but that's what my life is going to be. So that was already a seed that got planted in my head of coaching. But for me, it was more, let's fix my own health and let's see how I can be, you know, of service to my dad and my immediate family before I could see the bigger picture. So what I did is a bit of a tabula rasa. I left London, I left the corporate world, and I went to Bali, and then I went to live in an ashram, and then I went to Nepal, I went to the Himalayas. So I took the whole Eat, Pray, Love pretty far.
I was just about to draw that parallel. That's so funny.
It's yes. And it's funny because when I arrived in Bali and I told my story, people would say, "Oh, Eat, Pray, Love." And I genuinely had never heard of it. I didn't know it was a book, let alone a movie, because back then I didn't have time to watch movie. I was like, what is that thing everybody's telling me about? And now when I read the book and watch the movie, I think it's hilarious because it's very much a Eat, Pray, Love syndrome. But when I went to Bali, I was emotionally exhausted. I was also a little bit lost. And I also wanted to get more into a healthy rhythm, more connected to the earth, to nature. I had lost track of that when living in London, a very stressful, sort of fight and flight driven, adrenaline centric lifestyle, which I'm very grateful for because I got some really strong skills. But to me, it wasn't sustainable. So when I was in Bali, I did my yoga teacher training, and I learned about meditation and breath work. And we had to still, you know, learn to sit still and not to be always constantly doing something, and learn to be. I got really fascinated by that, and I thought, okay, I need to take it to the next level. So I did my 200 hours, and I thought I need more of this. So I went to India and I did my 300 yoga teacher training to do yin and yoga nidra and meditation. And it was quite challenging. The conditions were tough. And that was great. And I thought, okay, so now I have yoga teacher qualifications, but I felt like there was a gap because the nutrition in the ashram was terrible. We were fed naans and rice at 6 a.m. and it was all carbs, like maybe 60 grams of carb a day. And I noticed that the monks and all the beautiful, beautiful teachers that I had there, like bless them, I love them so much, but they didn't really look that healthy, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like a lot of them were actually carrying quite a lot of extra weight, but you looked at their lifestyle and you wouldn't say they're unhealthy, right? They were practicing meditation, they were obviously not drinking, but they were eating rice and naans and bread and And it started to, I was starting to put dots together. I was thinking, hold on, everybody's talking about the yoga scene as the must thing to do for wellness, but then everybody's turning vegan, everybody's turning vegetarian. I grew up in a very primal way. My mom would feed me brain when I was 3 years old, and stripes and liver and heart, because in France it's quite normal to eat a lot of meat and offals. So I had a very Mediterranean diet being brought up. And then I went all the way to the east to get healthier. And then I was fed rice and bread. And I was thinking, hold on, like, where's the gap here? How can I be looking at the bigger picture? Because I'm pretty sure that is not the ultimate solution for health. So I became really curious when I was in India. And maybe it's my analytical brain, my sort of, lawyer background of what's the full picture of what ultimate health looks like. And that's how I started to research primal nutrition, and being inspired by my upbringing, my mom being, really meat orientated, healthy meat orientated. And I spent a lot of time in a farm playing with animals. So, okay, how can I insert the spirituality, the yoga, the meditation, the breath work, but also the nutrition? And then I thought, just think, now, if I come up with all of those different things that I've been working and learning, I could serve people not only on being a yoga teacher, teaching them to meditate, but also teaching them to eat well, because I don't think you can over-exercise a bad diet. You can't train out a bad diet. You can't train out like eating an overly amount of processed carbs or carbs every day. And I personally don't think that being vegetarian or being vegan is healthy at all. And I was quite worried of this concept, of this idea and this trend of pushing all men and women towards those yoga school and then turning them vegan or vegetarian as the right thing to do. I found that very scary, and I wanted to be an ambassador for the opposite of that.
Yeah. It just reminded me when I did my yoga teacher training, I had to shame eat my chicken in the car at lunch breaks. So it's like,
what's interesting to me about kind of what you notice, because I notice this about the yoga world as well, but and how it's, I guess this way of eating, this type of nutrition, certainly part of it is like more of a virtuous anecdote, right? And more of a kind of it's the right thing to do because, animal welfare. And I get that, but I think we can reconcile that. But also the fact that you noticed that this is held up to be the healthiest lifestyle. But when you really looked at some of these master teachers that have been doing, they didn't look all that healthy, right? Now, I do think there's something to be said for the fact that there are other lifestyle factors have probably kept them from dropping dead and having massive coronary, right? So this just goes to show you the benefit and the impact of meditation and movement for movement's sake and getting to bed on time and some of these other healthy factors. Makes me wonder if they were to just incorporate less in particular processed carbohydrates, right? And more whole food based animal foods on the margin, kind of what that would then do to their peak wellness,
Absolutely. I think that's a point, and that's something that I was struggling to understand. And I noticed as well that as I was going down that path of vegetarianism and veganism, which I have to be honest, I experienced both because I wanted to give it a go. And also the teachers that I respected the most were telling me to be a vegan. And, I love them until this day, despite their veganism. And I'm sure they'll have a laugh when they hear me say that. But if you look them up as role model, of course you're going to do as they say, if you think what they're saying is solid. And of course, I am an empath, and I don't believe in seeing any being suffering, whether it's a cow or any animal. So that the sort of message behind it is very appealing, but it's also quite Disney-esque. I think it's very wrong, and in the sense of not being in a natural world. I mean, if we human go to a jungle, they're not going to look at us and be like, oh, that cute little human, so cute. Oh, it's going to eat us. I mean, that's just the law of the jungle, right? So I think it's a bit denial to think that we have this Disneyfication of animals with the Lion King, and it's we have this idea of cuteness, but that's just not what the world is about. We are the human that we became today because our ancestors ate the way that they did, and if our ancestors were vegan or vegetarian, we wouldn't be here. I started to show the intellectual limitation of that message. And that's perhaps my, like I said, a very analytical mind. I don't really like to be influenced by emotions. I like to rationalize any sort of data that I get in front of me. Probably the past litigator. And there was a message gap. There was something that didn't make sense. So the next move that I thought would be the best would be to become a primal health coach. And that's how I started to think, right, this is really how I'm going to be able to serve in the best possible way, because actually I can help people not only with the relaxation aspect, but also with the nutrition, and tap into the type of people that really resonate with my story. So my passion is really to serve corporate business, high performing exec, because in all of them, in a way, I see my dad and I also see me. So that really is close to my heart. And I think it's so important to support successful executives, successful lawyers, successful bankers to be the best lawyers and the best bankers, the best accountant that they can be, through an optimal lifestyle. And it doesn't mean they have to quit their job and go live in the Himalayas like I did. I do believe that you can have it all. You can be successful and have a career-driven life, but also look after your health. And I wanted to be that sort of ambassador, that person that would go, right, okay, I've been in your shoes, I've been a lawyer, so I'm not going to go completely woo-woo on you. And, I'm not necessarily going to talk about your chakras. I'm going to talk about your metabolic health. Are you telling me you have type 2 diabetes? Are you telling me that you're pre-diabetic? Are you telling me that, okay, so let's look at facts, let's look at data, let's analyze it. And of course, I'm going to put a little bit of breath work and meditation into my program. But sometimes with my client, I don't even talk about meditation. I might call it mindset shift, or I might call it neural pathway, or I might call it, brain power hour. So it will be more corporate-esque. But in essence, I'm putting everything that I learned from my beautiful meditation teacher.
Yeah, your audience needs to relate, right? And if you're using language that they just are not going to attach to. So I have a question. Did you niche down to this demographic very early on? Did you go into this with the mindset that that's who you were going to serve? Or did you tell us about that journey?
Of course, I would love to. So it was very much a gap that I noticed, in the sense that I remember when I was in the law firms, and then when we had yoga at lunchtime, or we had so-called wellness corporate things, I didn't find them particularly relatable. I didn't think that they were as powerful as they could be. So I thought, okay, how can I utilize the skills that I've worked so hard at? Because you don't become a lawyer overnight, right? I went to Cambridge University. I studied really hard. I went to top law firms. I climbed the ladder of the legal ladder. So I didn't want those skills to just be completely gone. And also I have a passion for the law, and I have a passion for that environment. So I thought, how can I be of service to that environment, but bridge that gap between health, wellness, and performance at work? Because, and for me, the message that's important here is, when I work with a client in that world, it's not just about looking good. It's about showing up for your kids, for your grandkids. It's about adding years to your life, and years and life to your years. So sometimes with corporate, it's not so much the body image, like someone who would work in the fitness industry, who's going to be very, very conscious about the way they look. A lot of my clients, it's not so much look driven, it's more, performance driven. I want to be the best lawyer that I can be. So you're telling me that if I optimize my nutrition, I'm not going to get brain fog, I'm going to have sharper focus, I'm going to have longer concentration, I'm going to sleep better. If I sleep better, I'm going to serve my clients tomorrow better when I'm performing and when I'm going to the tribunal or when I'm serving my files. And so it all fits together, because the offer here is not look good naked, which of course I think is very important, but it's also perform well at work. And then you've got that perfect 360 body, mind, and spirit transformation. And to me, that's what optimal health looks like.
I think this is really important. Obviously in the space you work in, which is, high powered kind of corporate types, but the high achiever personality type is everywhere. I get that in my clientele. It's moms and it's school teachers, and it's that personality type, the high achiever personality type is very drawn to hustle, slay, crush stuff. And so when I don't have the breath work and meditation background that you have, but I've started bringing it in for all the reasons you just stated, and it goes over like a lead balloon sometimes. It's like, no, I just need to eat right and exercise. I just tell me how to exercise, tell me how to eat. And it's hard for these folks to relinquish control over these parasympathetic nervous system aspects. They don't even believe that exists,
Right.
They think the solution is to crush harder. So how do you coach? Give us some ideas around how you nurture these ideas into these high power clients, and be like, honestly, do they take to it right away? Is it a bit of an uphill battle? How does that go?
Yes. So I've taken a very specific niche angle, which I think helps them relate. So it may sound like I'm answering in a detour, but hopefully that answers the question in precision. I found that biohacking was for me the hook between the health and the corporate world, in the sense that, and perhaps that's my former background as well, when I was a lawyer, before I left the corporate world, I worked also as a practice innovation manager for AI solution in a law firm. So I was quite tech savvy. And when I started to put together that data analysis and did my health program with the Primal Health Institute, I was more and more intuitively drawn to the sphere of biohacking. I was practicing Wim Hof ice bath. I was practicing Wim Hof breath work. I love tracking my data, and that's again the lawyer. So I didn't know back then the word biohacking, I think, but I was already a biohacker. And then, of course, because of the background, I found out everything that Dave Asprey does, and Ben Greenfield, and all the biohackers, and Mark Sisson, of course, he does biohacking as well. And what occurred to me is, right, in a new world where everything is sort of more and more remote, where the corporate world is more and more spread online, to get corporate buy-in is, I think, talking about the trackability and the accessibility to data. So the way I get clients engagement or buy-in to my program is by using tools that they can see. So if I send them a recording, like a meditation audio, so I do my little audio and I do a personalized yoga nidra, which is a technique that I learned in India. And I just tell my clients, look, lay down at night, and before you fall asleep, do this for 30 minutes. And then I invite them to try their sleep using a device. And then they see that they had 30 more minutes or 1 more hour of REM sleep or deep sleep. It's not so much woo-woo la-la-la. It's measurable, trackable data. And lawyers, they love data. As most performing executive. So I think if you have tangible evidence to show that whatever it is that you tell someone to say or to do or to adopt into their lifestyle works, it's hard to reboot. It's hard to show resistance. You might show resistance. I still get a lot of resistance, but it's about showing the evidence, showing the data. Okay, well, I'm telling you to do 10,000 steps a day. Don't take my word for it. Put your fitness, Fitbit, I'm not trying to use too many brands here, but track it and see, over a few months, you're going to find that your HRV is getting better, your resting heart rate is getting better, and wait, your last blood tests were better, your HDLs, everything's better, your doctors are telling you that you've reversed metabolic health condition. Interesting. You think those are coincidental, or so you start seeing patterns, right? And that's how you get buy-in. That's how you get trust, because what you're delivering is, again, not just a program that makes you look good naked, but a program that shows the doctors, probably the doctor that put you on a lot of medication you didn't need, that you're better. I mean, my ultimate goal is not for my clients to be on more pills, is to be on less pills. And of course, as a health coach, you have to be very careful around medication management. But to me, the best doctor in the world is a doctor that gives the least amount of medication, not the most amount of medication. Of course,
exactly.
That's not really how modern day medicine works. We live in a sick care system. So I believe prevention is better than cure. And I think more and more people are getting aware that working with a health coach means preventing going to that doctor that's going to give them medication they don't need.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when you are inviting people to track, so I guess my first question is, do you have certain ones that you recommend that are the easiest to use? Mm-hmm. Or are you letting them make their choice and just are inviting them, encouraging them to use their choice? How much guidance are you giving them there, and anything in particular that you want them to, I guess it's probably individual what you want them tracking or what they should be tracking. So,
well, one of the first things that I like my clients to do when they join my program is their genes tested, because obviously gene expression is so important. And because I like to work with mindset as well, I get a lot of clients that go very quickly into the story. So I am overweight. So when I hear that, the first thing that I want to hear is, what's the story here? Like, I hear the overweight, but was mom overweight? Was dad overweight? Because often there is a story. Now, in the back of my head, I'm thinking there is also a gene, right? Mm-hmm. And a predisposition. But then we just work on the story. So I get people to get their whole genes tested. And that helps me start to understand their predisposition. And I go into explaining that a predisposition, of course, is not a fate, but it's going to mean that you're going to have to take serious aligned action so that you don't go into the, oh, well, mom was diabetic, so am I. Well, actually, mom ate all those things and you're eating the same thing. So maybe it's not so much the gene, but it's also the fact that you're eating like mom did. So we're just trying to work on the stories and also stepping away from the story and re-empowering them to take aligned action. So I do invite my clients to do their genes testing. I do invite my clients to get hormones tested. I do like to read those. I do quite like to see a microbiome test result if that's available. Then I invite quite a lot of trackable devices. I have my personal recommendation. Do you want me to share those? Or
sure.
I really like using Oura Ring to track my sleep. I also use my Apple Watch to track my steps, and I get my clients to share the data. So I typically work with clients that are overdoers. So sometimes I actually have to make them go to the gym less or run less, because then they run with carrying extra weight and they come with knee injuries. So one of the most frequent injury that I see on my program is knee injury, because they're a chronic overrunner, and it's always spiking that cortisol level as well. So it's really interesting because, it's that culture of work hard, train hard. So I'm seeing a lot of time my client is sort of exhausted, but then they're going to get up at 6 to go on that exhausting run and to hurt the knee that's already not functioning very well. And it's like a constant chase of stress. Of course, a good stress is a good thing, but that constant cortisol spike level. And then with that, a lot of my clients have lower testosterone, or they have male clients. So it's that hormone element is very important for me to look at. And I suppose, again, there is a bit of a gray line here, and I know I'm not a doctor, so I have to be very careful, but it's doing as much data analysis and empowering your client to go and then ask the right question to the doctor, so that they can feel empowered to make the right decision. The same thing with digestive issues as well. I've had a lot of clients that had chronic GERD or chronic refluxes and IBS, and they all get put on this inhibitor and be told that they don't have enough acid or they have too much acid, and actually they don't have acid, and then they have esophagus cancer, or also it's just
yeah. No, I mean, I can really see, I mean, because I hear you kind of couching your words. I know I'm not a doctor and I'm careful here, but I'm I'm not taking away that that's what you're trying to do. What I'm hearing is you're encouraging them to seek data and information, because you know this is a tendency for that personality type, that if they see it in writing, it's a motivator to either continue a behavior or change a behavior. And they're, you know, this personality type also tends to be they like to control things. They like to feel in control. So if they have access to data and they can see the direct result of choices and behaviors in real time, they're much more likely to either continue that behavior if they're being rewarded with the data they want to see, or change behavior if they're not seeing the data they want to see. And it allows them to make adjustments. So I can see, particularly for this particular group, why having that information is, if they see it in black and white, I just think it's much more believable than having even a doctor or a health coach just speak anecdotally to these things. They can see it black and white and as it relates to themselves, you know. And you may have a different, you know, for those of you listening, if you have a little bit of a different niche that's not motivated by that, then you're not going to go down that road. You know, one of the things I hear, I've heard you say it at least a dozen times, and I love it. I thought to myself, how can I? How can I? How can I? I hear that over and over again as you talk about how you thought through the impact you're trying to bring to the demographic you're focused on, right? Rather than thinking, oh, they'll never go for this. You're thinking, okay, well, how can I motivate them to do that? Absolutely. And I just love that mindset. And not everybody has it, but I think it's something that we can start practicing as coaches, because we want our clients to practice it. We want our clients thinking, how can I? Okay, if this is a little too much for me right now, how can I move in? Whatever it is, you know? So I just love that. And I want to applaud you for that. I don't think you're conscious of it, but I don't know about you, Erin, but I heard her say it about 10 times or so just so far.
Yeah, there's a very bull by the horns sort of thing going on, which is important. We try to teach coaches. We try to teach that into our coaches. It's not super teachable. I think that's probably inherent to you. But I also know.
Sorry. No, I was going to say, I think it's important as well for coaches hearing us that it's something they want to do with their client. So whenever our client goes into the why, I really catch that. So if a client tells me, oh, I don't know why I've put on weight. Okay, like let's scratch that. We're not going to go into the why, and we're going to go how. Like, how is empowering? Why is victim? So again, it's drawing that line between the left-hand side, which is going to be the victim, the whys, and the why did this happen? Why did my parents have this? Okay, why is not going to help us. Is like how to empowerment. And I think as a coach, you have to be the how-to person, because you're their cheerleader, and not in the sense of unconditional applauding, but in the sense of constantly noticing that you are one step away from being the best version, or stepping backwards to your old story and breaking that patterns, because the whys is the pattern, is the metrics, is the programming that we all have, and the how-to is the person you want to be. So as the coach, whenever I have someone new coming to my program, my first point is always, where are you now? Like, do you actually know really where you are? What's the landscape? What's the emotional landscape, the physical landscape, the work landscape, the relationship landscape with yourself, with other, the nutrition landscape, the fitness landscape, and where do you want to be? Okay, so that's where we're going. And then what is everything in between that's meant that you didn't get to where you want to be before you met me? Because there must be roadblocks here. If I don't know the roadblocks, I'm not going to be able to overcome the roadblocks with you. So are you even cognizant of the roadblocks that are not letting you going from A to B? Because A to B might seem a short distance, but it can be a worlds apart between failure and success, right? So I think for the health coach hearing us is really like, do you have that clear roadmap of what a coaching and onboarding program is going to look like? Like how do you know that you're going to be the person that takes your client to the finishing line, and the finishing line is who they want to be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one thing you touched on that I loved was this idea of like heightened noticing. I think a big part of what our job is to notice and pick up the language that clients are just sort of throwing out there.
Yeah.
You know, to your point, it's like if a client says, oh, I just need to be more prepared. I hear that all the time. Oh, you know, I just need to be more prepared. It's like, okay, we're stopping there. What does that mean? Why weren't you prepared? What were the barriers in preparation? What does prepared mean to you? Like if a client thinks they're just going to let these words float by, well, they've let those words have floated by for their, you know, their duration of their life. But a health coach is there to grab those words, the manifestation of them or whatever, and get into them. You know, we teach that a big part of what coaches do is listen, and listening is an important part of this, but also listening, teasing out. And I always refer to it as like not letting the client get away with just dropping these little smoke bombs. And I find it to be the most rewarding thing. It sounds so granular when you hear it described like this, but that's what has lacked for these clients. They've never spent time looking at their obstacles or really inventorying them, their barriers and their confidence and things like that. So I just think it's the most rewarding part of coaching. It's the part I love the most, actually. Yeah. So tell us about your relationship, your coach, your programming. Is it one-on-one? How, you know, let's just kind of get to the meat and potatoes of how you work with people.
Yes, of course. So my program is 3 months minimum. And the reason for that is because in terms of my emotional investment in my clients, I think I need to see reciprocity in the sense that 1 hour consultation is not going to bring that much result into the potential health transformation that a client can go through. And it's a bit of a filtering mechanism, I think, as well. If someone is reluctant to commit 3 months to a program, I would wonder whether their commitment level is where it needs to be to get the result that we want to try to get. Because the difference between success and staying where you are is that commitment that, no, yeah, I'm interested. No. I'm committed. Like I'm 100% committed. And that's the level of commitment that I want from my client, because it's my energy. It's my investment. And I care deeply. And the reason I've always wanted to be of service is because I love my clients. I love the people that I serve. And I think that's also the part that you need to watch out for when you want to be a coach. Of course, it's heart-centered, but sometimes saying no to a client that is not motivated or committed is saying yes to serving a higher purpose of someone that is truly committed. And that's something that in the first months of being a coach can be very difficult, learning to say no, because you want to just take on clients, right? And for me, it was a non-negotiable. It's 3 months minimum. We will extend, but I don't do less. The only time I work per hour or per day is for my corporate wellness services. So I'm also a corporate wellness consultant. So my work is sort of twofold. I do private coaching program that are 3 months, and it's my health optimization 90-day blueprint. And then I have my corporate wellness consultant services. So I currently work with companies and give corporate wellness workshops, whereby they can get either a 90-minute workshop or they can get a 3 months program, which is similar to the private program, although it's really touching on desk ergonomy, posture, also incorporating health into everyday work life, but also targeting a corporate audience in the sense of corporate wellness. What does corporate wellness even mean? How is there such a thing as a well-being culture embedded into the company. So the type of company that I work in that industry are mostly tech, AI, fintech, wanting to be really in advance with their time. And whenever you work with an industry that believes in innovation, I think that it's important to be innovating with your health as much as you're innovating with the product that you sell, because the product that you sell is ultimately sold by people, and the people need to be alive to be selling whichever product that you're going to sell. It may sound basic, but if they all drop like flies, product is not going to get sold. So
you're absolutely right. And when you look, I mean, I see this across the board. Some of the most successful salespeople are the ones that are the most vivacious, the most vigorous. They have high energy levels. They're very positive people. They come, and those that are tired all the time, drink too much, gain excessive amounts of weight, like just it's particularly in that space. Appearance matters, not so much like body. I'm not talking body. I just this overall feeling of vitality. And, and the more you can physically express successfulness, the more people are drawn to you and want to work with you. And that's just, gosh, being healthy. Energy is a huge, it's tremendously sought after in that space. I came from the finance space as well, the sales space. And I can't even tell you just how many of us live on coffee. We're on this drinking in the evening, either because we have to with clients or in order to be able to wind down and fall asleep. And then you don't really sleep well. So you're kind of tossing and turning in the middle of the night, and you need not only coffee first thing in the morning, a couple of cups, or tea, whatever your caffeinated beverage of choice is, but often midday. Because midday, because your circadian rhythm's all messed up and because you didn't sleep well, you're getting these energy slumps, not to mention you're probably eating in a way that your blood sugar's a total roller coaster. I mean, it's such a cliche. And I know that this space is not the only population that suffers from this, but it's classic for any kind of high-powered professional, whether it's sales or lawyer, law, finance, any of that stuff. It's tremendous. So I would love to hear, I'm sure people are listening and asking two questions. I wonder how she finds her individual clients and how did she land those corporate gigs? So I would love for you to speak a little bit to what is your client acquisition strategy? Your lead gen strategy? How does that work?
Well, I have to say, I'm very lucky that I had an excellent network because of being a lawyer at top law firms in the city. So I was working for American law firms in the city of London. And I also come from Cambridge University. So I'd started to build my network of high profile lawyers since I was 17 when I got into uni. So, and I maintain really, really beautiful relationship with all my former colleagues. I really love, maybe that's my people orientated type of personality, but I really love them. I suffered in the sense of, I do think it wasn't for me because I felt disconnected to nature, and I felt that I couldn't be the healthiest version of myself that I could be. But my colleagues, I love them, I adored them. So when I became a health coach, they knew, they were supporting me along the journey. They were excited. And then when they wanted to look into their health, well, I was a next best choice because they would trust me more than someone that they haven't worked with because we already had an existing relationship. So in that sense, I've been really blessed, and perhaps it's not fair in the sense that I already had this amazing solid network of people that trusted me, and they were always in my mind. So literally when I was studying for the Primal health coach, I had visual photos of my ideal client avatar. And I was thinking of my ex-colleagues that I've seen suffered, that I saw sedentary, that I saw overweight, that I saw have strokes, because it wasn't just my dad. I lost colleagues as well through illnesses. And I thought, well, like, you guys are all everybody's, like, you're all a dad or a brother or a sister or a mom or somebody's sister. Like, I want to serve you all. And I think having that vision, I was fortunate to have a network, but I think for everyone listening, have a very clear vision. Who is your ideal customer avatar? Even if it's not existing yet, like I literally had pictures of them before they called me. And it's a bit weird, but some ex-colleagues that I manifested, like literally like called me. And, you know, you can have manifestation power in your life if you have a clear intention. So my tip would be like, number one, clarity. Like, who are you serving? And mine was super niche. I'm serving corporate executive lawyers or bankers in the city of London. Like, I'm not geographical centric in the sense that I serve people that are outside London, but I knew the niche. I knew I was not probably gonna target, I don't know, I wasn't gonna target athletes. Just by way of an example, not because I don't love athletes, but because I don't know that much about this world. I'm not an athlete myself. And I'm sure there are a million better athlete performance coaches out there that have a past experience. But as far as lawyers go, I think I know what I'm talking about, because I was one. I was working in top law firms. I love the law. I still read law books. I'm still a geek. I'm still a legal nerd, you know. So I felt really strong and confident that I would be the best coach that I can be for them. And, you know, of course, in all of them, I still see my dad and I still see myself, and there is an emotion and there is a story. And I want to say to the health coach that are listening to us, like, make your story your power. Don't let it be something that breaks you down. Make it something that breaks through. Like, I tell my dad, he's still alive, and he was my first student when I came back from my yoga training, and he's made a full recovery. And literally, like, I tell myself, like, thank you for life putting us through what it put us through, because I became a lawyer to resemble you, and then I became a coach to serve you, and now I'm serving so many more people in a much more profound way. So if someone I hear a lot of stories, you know, someone says, oh, my sister got sick, or I got sick. Make that your superpower. Whatever it is that you had to go through and you broke through, make it your superpower, because it is your superpower.
Yeah, clarity. I love that clarity piece around your avatar client. And first of all, one thing is, like, you didn't get lucky to have a network. You built a network. You did that work. So let's just put that in. But what's interesting is, like, the clarity with which you could physically see, and you had physical photographs of your ideal client. Like, every single business coach will tell you, get really clear. I remember my business coach that I hired a long time ago, one of my first business coaches said, okay, who's your ideal client? And I said something like, women 35 to 45. He's like, okay, is she 35 or is she 45? Because those are two different women. Okay, is she a mom? Okay, is she a mom of toddlers, or is she a mom of grown kids? Do they live at home or do they not live at home? Like, is she in the suburbs? Is she in the city? Like, and what kind of car does she drive? And, you know, for me, it was like, why does this matter? But if you don't have clarity and you can't actually visualize who this person is, like, you drop the idea of manifestation, which probably sounds woo, but you, like, this is the idea of acting and behaving in a way that achieves outcomes. That's really that's how I interpret manifestation. I'm behaving in a way that achieves outcomes, but you can't engage in the behaviors until you know who it is that you're meant to be reaching out to. So there's that piece of clarity is important. So that's why we teach that a lot in our course too, like, get really, really clear on who that is. So I love that you brought that home for us.
Yep. And you know what? It's early in our course too, right? It's like the first couple chapters. And so we get a lot of coaches that struggle with, I don't know, they really, really struggle with this in the beginning. But what I love about you and kind of and we see this across the board, you were able to identify your niche very early because you were your niche at some point. If you're kind of unclear on what your niche really is, start there. Start with you and who you were. That, like, I guess promoted the passion in the first place.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And also, I think the other, at least what served me, and perhaps that could be useful to a coach listening, is what's your success story? Like, because we all have a recipe of success. And I like to call this the recipe of success. And I knew mine. And I knew that my recipe of success was the one that I applied, that got me to my dream uni, that got me to my dream law firm. So then when I became a health coach, I thought, right, I've got this. And I don't mean that from a place of being pretentious or overly confident or cocky. I just mean, I knew that there was a formula to apply, which is visualization. And like you said, Erin, like I know there is a woo-woo aspect of it, but it works. Like as a little girl, I used to have stickers with like Cambridge University flags or like the law firms I wanted. I literally fell asleep to those. And I was a little French girl who didn't even speak English, let alone getting to Cambridge, right? I wanted to get there because my dad used to read Charles Darwin to me. Not the usual kind of going to bed story, I'll admit, but and I wanted to go study where Charles Darwin did. And I manifested Christ College, Cambridge by wanting that and visualizing it. And it was a long shot. I had to learn English, I had to apply, and I was just, a little girl from the French countryside. So, but what I mean by that, and it's just a side story, but I knew I had a recipe. So all I had to do is follow the same recipe from a book that worked for me and apply it to a new aspect of life. And any coach out there that's listening, I know that they've been successful at something. Everybody is successful at something. So find out what it is and find out the recipe, like what are the ingredients and in which order do you put the ingredient. That's why I call it a recipe, because you have to have a vision and a clarity before you expect a result. Like really apply that thing, and then you're going to bake a good cake. Oh, not a cake. We don't eat cake here.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. I used to use the analogy of nachos, so we're good. The layers of the nachos. But Laura also asked you about sort of this corporate wellness piece that you've got going on. Tell us a little bit about that. People are really interested in that. We get a lot of folks who want to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, I think it's really important to service at multiple levels, because of course there are people that will be self-motivating by getting their own health coaches, but there are people that are probably not going to get the right buy-in or just want to get that into their private life. But then if you touch them at work, it will resonate with them. So I think that it's important to deliver that message at corporation level so that the solution can be implemented. And in the new world that we live in, that sort of online Zoom, there is a huge market now for being of service for corporation and being in that space of having innovative solutions for the wellness of employees and executives. And now we live in gray areas as well. Corporations are the CEOs are corporations, digital nomads are mini solo entrepreneurs. So there is no such big thing as solid hierarchy. So it's really important not to neglect the corporate world and not to think, oh, I just want to be a private coach for private entity, for private people. I would say broaden the horizon and think about as well those CEO, because you're working with the CEO, you're working with the company. So the lines are getting really blurred nowadays because we have so many more entrepreneurs, and we as coaches are entrepreneurs. So it's important to tap into that. And also, I mean, my motivation when I wake up every day is serving as many people as I can. So if I serve one person, I'm trading my time to one person. If I'm delivering a workshop where 20 people are there, those 20 people have 20 members of their family, and each one of them, when they go to bed that night, I know will tell them what they learned that day. That's 20 times 4. That's a lot more people than if I spend my time talking to one person who's going to talk to 2 people.
Right.
And that's the principle of networking, really.
Yeah.
100%.
So how do you get in to those kinds of arrangements?
Again, I had network that I had built. I've always had a network mindset. I'm quite an outgoing person. I love public speaking. I love people. So whenever I meet someone, I I interact. And I don't mean to be weird, but I think like I've literally had clients that I gained from airports. I know airports are not really a thing anymore, but it's not just the network that I had like acquired in my back pocket. It's the network that I build on every day. Whenever I deliver a seminar, or I'm showing up as a yoga teacher, or I'm showing up shopping, if I see someone struggle, like I'm not going to be weird and like be psycho that follows them. But if I genuinely see someone struggle, like I'm going to show up for them. Like, are you looking for something? Is it, I've had clients that I've like picked up on the street, like an old person, an elderly, a loving person that was really struggling to walk alone. Okay, well, how can I help you? And that person happens to be the director of a company that will call me. And I mean, like, you know, walk the talk the walk, embody who you want to be. And everyone around you is someone you can serve potentially. So there is no work or not work. For me, it's my lifestyle. And it's everywhere is someone that needs potential help. If I can be of service, I will be. And you never know when you meet someone, that someone can be the director of a company, and they can be the director of a family, and they can be a mom that would benefit a lot from learning. So because, you know, families are mini companies with a little tribe of mini human beings. So you just never know. Just be authentically filled in with your belief. Like I like to look and be what I believe. So if I radiate health, I think I will inspire by example. So people will naturally gravitate towards me and want to know what it is that I do, not because I tell them to do it, because they're inspired by what I do. So then there is that kind of really nice flow and that abundance mindset of, you know, like it's always coming. And I think whereas my new health coaches as well, if they're listening, just have that time, that meditation mindset, that sitting down and just fill your heart with a space of abundance and just know like my client is there. My client is here already in the world. That person's born. It's just you haven't met them yet. But maybe also there is a story there with yourself, something that you need to not fix, but work on. Because it's not so much you haven't met the right client, is maybe you haven't adopted the right mindset.
I just think the openness in everything you're saying is key to this. Truly being open to receive these kinds of relationships. You know, there are a lot of people who, I'm just going to use this as an example, feel very insecure about trying to build a practice on social media. Very insecure about it, right? And, you know, hey, if I'm uncomfortable here, how can I build a business? So you said something before we started recording, that your network is your net worth. And your prime example of this. So, and I know there's probably people listening like, I don't have a network. Of course you do. Of course you do, right? You might not have an abundance of CEOs in your network, but you have people that work for companies that have CEOs, right? And I know people that have gained access into the ability to go talk to a company because they just offered to help one person who worked for that company. They had a positive impact and they went and talked to their company about, hey, I think this would be great to have so-and-so come in and just do a talk, you know? But in order for any of that to happen, you have to be open to the opportunity. You have to not be afraid of it, which is, look, just me saying, don't be afraid of it, it's not going to work, right? But you have to be open to it, because if you're not open to it, you're not going to offer to help. And that's how all of this is the common thing that I keep hearing from you. And it's something that I'm drawn to because I was the same way. It might seem weird, but picked up a client at Whole Foods, picked up a client on the soccer field, right? It was just having a conversation and offering to help, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
That's
and
just
also
the biggest difference.
I think it's so important to be where your client might be. And what I mean by that is, so we're talking here a lot about executive and performance, but if we have someone listening now to this podcast that wants to serve busy moms, and that has a really strong connection with busy mom, be where busy moms are. You're not going to find your busy mom by not being where busy moms are. So if you want to serve a busy mom, just act like one, you know, and that's how I think, like, to know your client, to manifest your client, you have to know their likes, dislikes, their pain point, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. So even if you're not going to serve who you are as your own ideal client, you need to know what they love, what they what's keeping them up at night. So busy mom, like, what's keeping them up at night? What is the big problem in their life? What is the thing that's going to keep them up? Like in my field, I know metabolic dysfunction, I know cognitive performance. Like my client, when they go to sleep, they're thinking about how they're going to best perform the next day. That's keeping them up. If you know that your ideal client is a future Olympian, like you're going to want to start to really, really investigate, okay, what does it take to become an Olympian? Where do I find future Olympian? Just an example, but like, so it's not so much about, oh, I can't find clients. It's like, again, like, do you know where your clients are? Like, do you know what they need? Do you know what they don't have? And that's how you serve them.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we want to start kind of wrapping up, but before we do, you dropped before we pressed record that you spent 5 months on a deserted island, and we just can't let you go without telling that story.
Yeah, that was interesting, to say the least. I went on a tiny island, tiny 5-kilometer wide island. It's in Indonesia, just off the coast of Bali. And I was going there for 3 weeks. I was taking a new yoga qualification. Well, I guess I always take more qualifications. I love to keep on learning. I think to be a lifetime teacher, you need to be a lifetime student. So I love to always upgrade my qualification. And I was also going to teach yoga there. So I was going to do both, study and teach. And that was March last year. And we got a message that everything was going to change and the school was going to close. And I was invited to fly back home and take a next boat and the next flight. And so I'm a little bit rebellious. And I thought, wait, hold on, go back to chaotic Europe or stay in an island. So I did a bit of a risk assessment. You probably get a feel that I like data. So I went, okay, like how much water is there on this island? Okay, I can't drink the water, but how accessible can I get the water? Like, what are the solutions for me to get clear water if everything runs out? Like, are there fishermen? Is there food? Is there coconut? Like, seriously, I went through a list of like, what are my essential needs? If everything goes bad, like, can I actually survive here? So, you know, are we going to befriend the fishermen? Let's grow the network with the fishermen. Sometimes it's not about the executives. Sometimes it can be the fishermen. You have to know what's your priority. If the priority is survival, pick the right person to survive.
That's hilarious.
So I did a bit of a risk assessment, and I was blessed with gorgeous friends on the island, and some of the teachers chose to stay as well. And I had amazing people around, and it was paradise. I won't say that it wasn't scary. It was scary because, you know, there was a bit of fear around the fact that we were effectively stranded, because once the last boat left, they locked down the island. So there was no boat in, no boat out, unless like medical emergency. But even then, I'm not sure how it would have worked out. So, you know, there was no doctor on the island. And so there was that moment, of course, where not everybody, some people stayed, but a lot of people choose to leave because of the corona fear. And it's like, oh my God, I need a doctor, and there is no doctor on this island. But like, I trust my immune system. I am my own doctor. I don't believe in the power of anything more than my own self. So again, I was thinking, well, if I'm in the sun, if I'm walking and swimming, I'm drinking coconut, I'm eating fresh fish, I'm eating chicken bones. Like, I think some people in this island thought I was some kind of witch because I was collecting bones and I was making my bone broth, you know, in my little kitchen. I had all those like chicken feet, because they didn't eat the chicken feet, they gave it to the dog, and I was like, I'll be the dog, I'll eat the chicken feet. And I collected all sorts of organ meats, and I made my own broth and my own soup. So yes, I think they thought I was maybe a little bit strange, But, I thought I'm going to be the healthiest person that I can be while studying my primal health coaching, and the Wi-Fi was good. So, no problem.
A deserted island with good Wi-Fi. That's the dream right there,
So yeah, that lasted 5.5 months, from 3 weeks to 5.5 months.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Kind of a dream, actually. I'm a bit jealous.
Well, I thought as far as like studying primal health, it's pretty primal, probably as primal as it gets. I was getting my fish and, learning to open a coconut, which I did not do very successfully. But
Oh, and talk about like the safest place to be, honestly. The people fleeing because they're worried about the virus. It's like, you should stay here on this island. There's nothing.
That's right. They're going from the frying pan to the fire. What?
Yeah. That's very cool. Wow.
Yeah, it was a great life experience. I'm deeply grateful that there were people on the island that, sort of took me in, and I had the best time. But I guess, again, it's a mindset, you get lemons, you make lemonade, right? So
yeah. Very cool. This was such a great conversation. I think our listeners will get a lot out of it in terms of inspiration to get granular about who they want to serve, how to embody that. There's really, really great information here, Charlotte. We really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you. That's so kind of you to say. Well, it's an honor, really. It truly is, to be talking to you guys. And I hope that maybe someone has an insight. And it's been a pleasure to share that moment with you. So thank you for your time and your presence.
Awesome. So where can people find you? If they want to kind of check out what you're up to and what you're doing, or start following you, where can we send them?
Of course. So my website is my name, Charlene Gisele. So it's www.charlenegisele.com. I'm quite active on Instagram at Charlene Gisele, and on social media in general. I'm quite active, but mostly it's my website. And I'm currently preparing a book with ancestral recipes and organ to share a little bit more about my brain story and how I grew up being fed organs from my mom an early age, and how people can integrate a more ancestral way of living into a modern day life. So that's the story. If anyone wants to chat after this podcast, I'll be happy to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Charlene. It's been a blast.
Thank you so much.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Erin and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. We are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.